Alright Goblins, and welcome to another guide. In this video I will teach you the best race options for DPS in World of Warcraft Legion. Now this video is primarily for raiding, but to be honest it's kind of useful for PvP due to the human racial changing, but I'll have a PvP version out soon anyway. Now there isn't a simple answer to this question, since each specialization of each class has very unique mechanics, which means, different races become the best option depending on the specialization, right? But before we jump into the video, I'm going to explain why certain races come out on top in DPS, because a lot of you might think, these results are simply wrong. Like a lot of people who watched my last video, you thought my, the results were like batshit crazy. So basically, I'm going to explain why. I mean, I don't think everyone has fully taken on board that the ratios completely changed in World War II of Draenor. I mean, people still think Orc will always be the best option for melee DPS because their ratio kind of used to be only for a melee DPS, and people still think that for some reason. It's kind of like it's become completely overblown, and people, they have just refused to properly analyse the new racials. As a matter of fact, the Orc racials simply don't actually provide a very strong mathematical advantage anymore. Orc, unfortunately, I mean, they basically suck. That pet buff as well, the pet DPS increase, it does not affect extra pets for Demolition Lock or Unholy Decay, unfortunately, so I think a lot of people were thinking that, but unfortunately it just doesn't. Orc is just really bad these days. The Orc racial, DPS ratio is just simply low, and it needs to be buffed. But anyway, Blood Elf has become the strongest melee DPS race, and this is because of the racial Arcane Torrent. Arcane Torrent basically will now regenerate Rage, Energy, Runic Power, Holy Power, Focus and Chi. Whenever a class does most of its damage with its resource consuming abilities, then Blood Elf will be the strongest, because that can be the difference between getting a really strong ability off or not getting a strong ability off, right? Draenei has also become quite strong, and this is because of their new racial heroic presence, which now affects every class's primary stat. And it just seems to scale very nicely as you get better gear, so it just comes out on top in the results in a lot of situations. The new racials for Dwarf and Tauren are also quite important to analyse, because they basically Dwarf and Tauren do an extra 2% critical damage, so whenever a Spec does most of its damage with critical strikes, then Dwarf and Tauren are going to come out on top. Gnome and Goblin have also made an appearance, and this is simply because of their passive haste increase, which is going to benefit the Specs that do extra dot damage with haste, like Affliction and Shadow. Just before I show you the results, a lot of you are probably thinking, how much of a difference does it make, depending on which race you choose? And the most significant difference I have seen between the worst and the best race for a single specialization is 6k DPS. Okay, so obviously that is quite a difference, and if you're an extremely serious raider, then it's definitely worth paying attention to. Anyway, here is a spreadsheet of the results. It looks like Draenei has become the master race in Legion, which is, kind of cool if you know your lore, since Draenei really want to kick some demon ass and get some revenge. There'll also be an image version of this spreadsheet in the description. I'll have it on Imgur, so you can just check that out whenever you want, and you can bookmark it. Anyway, be sure to check out my best race for tanking guide and the best race for healing guide. The healing guide and the best race for PvP guide will be coming out soon. My name is Buddy, the tank one, it's already out, so go and check that out. You'll be able to see it in the playlist link in the description. My name is the Metagoblin. Until my next video, ciao.